Hello, everybody. I am back. Successful Stories with Ozzy Alvarez is back. Thank you so much for joining me today. Now, here's the big question, all right? How does a Sony handheld camcorder become the new tool for a successful career? That's something that I am so excited to know, and I'm sure you will want to know as well. But like always, I like to show a little bit of a background for my guests. So before we bring in our special guest, let me go ahead and share here some images. And let's start with this one. Isn't this adorable? This is actually my guest, and we'll ask to make sure. But this special guest has been a filmmaker and a musician. So he's been a filmmaker for 10 years, and he owns his own production company called Divergent Studios. And not only that, but let me show you another image here. So that is our guest here. Not only is he a filmmaker, but he is also a musician. And he's been playing guitar for over 15 years. And he is in a heavy metal band called the Human Extinction. Interesting title, interesting name for a band. There's our guest. We want to know why. Why the Human Extinction and how music has influenced as well. He describes himself as a very reserved but introverted and ambitious. He loves to collaborate with others, and without any more anticipation, let's bring in our very, very special guest. This is another image of what our guest does. So please help me hit those little hearts, and let's bring in our guest. Remember that our clapping as audience is those hearts at the bottom. If you do have a question, please type it in on the comment section or in the question box. So let me go ahead and bring in our guest here. 1 second. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me invite with applause and hearts, Anthony Ortiz.
Hey, Ozzy.
Hi, Anthony.
How you doing?
We have a little intro music here.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
stop it so that way we don't get flagged.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. I am so excited to have you here. I am excited that you've reached out. I'm excited that you want to be part of this, and I'm excited that you are giving us some time here to be able to share your successful story.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we always start with the big question with all my guests. Tell me, how does it feel to be Anthony Ortiz?
It feels pretty cool, I guess. I mean, I don't get to be anybody else, but me. So I try to embrace that and get to know myself, all the time as I grow. So yeah, I mean, it feels pretty cool to be me, I guess. I'm a pretty reserved and private person, and it's all mellow.
Nice. So we saw this picture in the intro, which I have here. Let me share it again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell me what is going on here. This is so adorable. And for all of our viewers, tell me, what were you doing there? How old were you?
My guess is I was probably like, I think I'm probably less than 1 year old. I'm not entirely sure. That's my guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not good at guessing the age of babies, but that's probably like, I don't know, less than one. And I don't know, somebody took a photo of me with, I think they were taking the photo because I have like a funny beanie on. I think that's what someone's, or one of my family members told me. And then it's hilarious because I'm doing like the horns, So one day my mom pointed it out, like, oh, you're doing the metal thing, That was kind of like foreshadowing, and I was like, oh yeah, that's funny.
Right. When I saw this picture, I was like, there is something there that is foreshadowing for sure. Cute picture, adorable as a baby. Love the beanie. And so tell me a little bit about where you were born. Tell me, where you were raised. A little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I was born September 21st, 1993 in Anaheim, California.
Hmm.
And then my family moved to Whittier, which is what I consider to be my hometown. That's where I grew up from a kid to being a teenager to a young adult. And that's really where, a big part of my life took place is in Whittier. And there's a lot of history there. I got a lot of my first jobs there, a lot of clients. And yeah, so I grew up in Whittier. I went to California high school. Um, and yeah, I mean, my childhood was pretty great, with a single mom. My mom raised us and taught me um, about life and, being a man. And yeah, so I I was really into skateboarding and music and actually into the performing arts. I used to do theater when I was like 11 or 12, um, doing plays and stuff. And at that time, I wanted to get into acting and be an actor. Um, but then after a while, the passion for that kind of fizzled, and then I wasn't interested anymore. So I decided to focus on music, and I learned how to play guitar and focused on that. And then in high school, I got into a couple bands, and then around senior year, started the band that I'm currently in, the Human Extinction.
Well, before we get to that,
Sure.
I do want to know. So you were raised by a single mother. What is your background? Where did your mom come from?
Yeah, so my mom grew up in LA, and um, she used to work at the bank, like in the, I don't know, like early 90s or something. And then it's interesting, in like the mid 90s, like around the time I was born, was when the internet was like in its infancy. So
Right.
yeah, so my father is a computer programmer. So he introduced her to the internet, and she's like, "Well, what is this?" And he explained it, what AOL and all that stuff is. And she's always been a very creative um, and ambitious woman, and she's always been super artistic and very, very social, uh, and and yeah, she's very brave, and I've learned a lot from her. And uh, going back to the internet thing with my dad, her being a creative person, she was sort of interested in the internet in terms of like what she could do creatively with it. Like she met people on chat rooms and stuff like in those early days, but when my dad showed her like graphics and stuff and like what you could do with a website and bringing in the visual aspect of it, because he did all the coding and behind the scenes of programming and the internet and web development and stuff, but she was really interested in the visual, and she got into website development, and she had a business with my dad where they were basically a team where they would get clients and build websites, and he would do the back end stuff, she would do all the visual stuff, and she learned Photoshop, and she learned how to make websites, and she essentially had a business with my dad, but then she went off and did her own business by herself, and she kept taking that further and further. And then, yeah, so she was raising us and doing her networking, and she kind of like brought us along. Like she would have to go to like a networking event, and she would like bring me and my little sister along, because she was raising us, she had to watch us. So she would be like, "Hey, come with me to this event," and we would go along, and she would be a businesswoman, doing her networking, making connections. And then we would go find the hors d'oeuvres table, like with the snacks and the drinks and stuff. And we would go sit there and look at the art and watch all these people. So that's how I was pretty much introduced to the business world. Because I was surrounded by artists, entrepreneurs, musicians, photographers, realtors, like restaurant owners, like all kinds of people. And it was like a taste of like what that's like. And then once I later got into started carving my own path into business and filmmaking, everything was sort of familiar because I kind of grew up around that. And yeah, to this day, my mom is still a businesswoman. She's always hustled and you know, did her thing and always focused and stayed on track with what makes her happy, you know. So I learned a lot of that from her.
Wow, what a beautiful story. You know, you tell me how brave your mom is. What do you think? What is one of the memories you most remember about your mom being so brave that really impacted your life?
I would say really embracing her ambitions to like working for herself and not because one of the reasons why she wanted to pursue her own business as opposed to keeping a day job was because she wanted to be with us. Like she wanted to be around us. She wanted to raise us herself. She didn't want to like depend on anybody else to take care of her kids or watch her kids or raise her kids. Like she wanted to be there for us. And so that was one of her incentives or motivations for wanting to take that risk, you know, because that is a risk to you know, not rely on a job where you have security and stuff. She decided to carve her own path and have a business and raise her children at the same time. So I've always really admired that because that's, you know, I can't imagine how tough that is.
Unbelievable. See, you mentioned risk, and I think that we're going to hear more about this in your story, right? But there must have been some risk that you also had to take to get to where you're at now. But yeah, before we get to that, we have this image, and I want you to tell me what it is and what does it mean to you? What is the story behind this? What is it? I want you to tell me.
Yeah, so that is the first camera that I ever got. It was a gift from my grandparents when I graduated high school. And yeah, when I look at that image, it just reminds me of me starting out, like making videos, having no idea what I'm doing, and just teaching myself about the craft and just seeing what happens. So, and basically my grandparents were pretty much like, you know, because they saw that I was in music and skateboarding and stuff. So they were kind of asked me once in a while, like, hey, do you think you would find the camera like useful? Like, do you think you could do something with that? Make little movies or something? And I was just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess that'd be cool. You know, I wasn't really taking it seriously. I was just young and didn't really knew what that would be like to actually use a camera. So when they gifted it to me, I was just really fascinated and like, okay, let's play with this. Let's start dabbling with this. And I started making little videos of my family, my dogs, me skateboarding. Like we would have parties and I would be recording all these moments and we would I would sit around with my family and I would hook up the camera to the TV and we would watch all these little video clips that I was capturing and we would just be laughing. And like half the time, you know, they didn't even know that I was like recording. I was just like doing my own thing and it was really fun. And then I would have these backyard shows, like little kickbacks in my backyard at a house I lived in Whittier. And I would have local bands play and friends would come through and it was just super chill. I had a cabana and a pool in the backyard. And I would just record a bunch of footage of the whole night and just be up all night editing a little video, post it on Facebook, and it would get shared with all the bands and stuff around the community. And I think that's when I started to really learn about what you could do with filming and editing and putting together all those moments and finding the best pieces that are more exciting to you, and just putting together something with just all this footage, and then being involved in the music scene, I knew local promoters for bands and stuff, and I started working with one of them, like putting on shows and promoting shows. And one day we had like a team meeting, and one day I asked the owner, like, hey, I'm doing this video thing. What if I created video content for us? And I had like no portfolio or like anything to show, like no professional experience, no nothing. So of course he was very leery about that idea, and he's just like, well, yeah, let's see what you could do. You know, bring your camera, let's see what happens. So then I started bringing my camera to the shows, and I started recording everything, going on stage, recording the drummer, recording the band, you know, recording the crowd, getting in the mosh pit, just making it very immersive and exciting, and what I would think would be cool to see in video. And then I just, same thing, started putting together little videos, posting them online, sharing them with groups and stuff. And then the promoter started to recognize, like, okay, he could do, you know, something, it is useful. So then I started getting ideas for marketing, and what we would do is we would have a show one weekend, and then I would record a bunch of footage, make a promo video, and then use that to promote the next show. And then like doing all this work at that time, like I'm not making any money, you know, like I'm doing everything for free. I might make a couple bucks here and there, but I was all about the experience at that time and just seeing what I could do with this, because this was a new, exciting craft that I'm getting into as like kind of a hobby, and I'm recognizing that I have some sort of talent here. So I just decided to keep exploring it, and then I actually hit up the graphic guy on the team, because he did all the flyers and stuff. And I said, hey, dude, send me all of the Photoshop files, all the logos. I want to animate the flyer and make it really interesting and engaging. So then he sent me everything. I taught myself how to do that, and then we started making the videos better. And then one day the promoter would hit me up, and he's like, hey, so I got a band. They got this album coming out, and they want to release a teaser video. Like, do you think you can make one? Let me know if you could do it, how much you would charge. And I was like, yeah, definitely I could do it. And then he sends me this link, and he's like, all right, here's what they want. And it's this promo video from this big metal band, and it has all these like crazy effects and like fire and shit and explosions. And I was like, oh damn, like I'm not at this level yet. But I didn't tell him that. I just said, yeah, I could do it. You know, send over the number, I'll talk to the band, send me the logo. And then I went on YouTube. Okay, how do you do this? How do you do this effect? Okay, I need this program. So I downloaded it, taught myself how to do it. And then I was able to pull it off. And like, that was kind of like I guess like a fake it till you make it type of mentality. Because I could have just said, no, I don't know how to do that. And then I would have like lost that opportunity. But I decided to just like go for it and see what happens. And then after a couple years of doing all that, I decided, you know, I think I could go off and do this on my own and start like a freelance business or something, and you know, make more money. And
yeah. And Anthony, I think that part where you're saying about fake it till you make it, right? Like you didn't know what to do, and I think that's part of that risk, right? We were just talking about that at the beginning. I wanted to understand where you took this risk, how it was that you just said, let's do it, right? And you ended up doing it. So that's a good point. You brought up that you started to recognize your talent and craft. How did you recognize that you had this talent, right, while you were doing this freelance work?
Mm-hmm. I guess, let's see. Maybe it was because I was enjoying the videos that I was creating, you know? I mean, when I look back at it now, I'm just like, that's extremely amateur. But at that time, I was in this new I had these new tools and I was learning how to use them, and then I would make something and I would see the final product and I would say, okay, this is cool. Like, I think this video is cool. Maybe other people will enjoy it. So I put it out there, you know, and I guess maybe it's also kind of the whole thing about, like, you don't know what you don't know, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't know at the time. I couldn't recognize what high quality videos were, like what cinematic videos were, what professional is. Like, I mean, I had a sense of it, but in relation to like my work, I was just kind of like, yeah, making some cool videos. You know, I think they're cool, so maybe other people will think they're cool. So I identified that as that I had a talent. And plus, I guess I was able to replicate other results that I was seeing on the internet, like other videos that I would see, because I took a lot of inspiration from what other people did, you know, especially at like a higher level, like on a mainstream level. I would see videos that other bands were doing for their promotional content and promoting their stuff, and I would just try to model that, and then I would get as close as I can, and I would just, you know, feel pretty good about it, like, okay, this is good, like I'm getting pretty close to this. So that's how I identified as, okay, I have a talent. Plus I was started making some money. So
Which is always nice, and you can
yeah.
see parts and people are agreeing and applauding your
Oh,
success.
nice.
So yeah, you noticed that you enjoyed what you were doing. That is incredible. That is so incredible. Let's move on to questions that guided you there, like got you there, right? So tell me, what was the most challenging struggle for you?
Challenging struggle. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of challenges, you know, over the years. But I guess the biggest one that comes to mind was probably taking that leap into doing this full time, because for the longest time that's all I ever wanted, was to do what I love, like full time, and be able to like make a living on it and be happy and do projects that I am passionate about and is making an impact on my clients. So it was a really long time to build the confidence and position myself where I could take that leap of like, okay, I'm gonna do this full time and actually, you know, fully immerse myself in this business, even if it's not 100% where I want it to be. I would say that's probably been the most challenging struggle, because for a long time I was so afraid to take that leap, because it's terrifying, you know, like it's not like it's like the idea of like not knowing like where your income is coming from, and if you're going to be able to like pay the bills, and if you're going to be able to sustain your clients. Those are like scary, you know, thoughts and realities, because, you know, because it's tough, you know, a lot of businesses fail, and or it takes a lot of people, you know, starting multiple businesses before they have a business that actually takes off and has success. So yeah, a long time I struggled with, how do I get there? How do I do this full time? How do I position myself to where I could take that leap? And it's funny, because for the longest time I tried to plan it, like plan out like a game plan of like how I wanted it to play out and everything, and it totally didn't work out that way at all. But I ended up where I wanted to be, so I kind of embraced it.
Wow. You know, you talked about the risk, you talked about being afraid. Do you feel like as a filmmaker and as a creative, you just have to give in to being vulnerable?
Yeah, definitely. Especially as an artist, because art is subjective, and not everybody is going to understand what you're doing. So when you create something and you put it out in the world, um, you're making yourself vulnerable to criticism and um, feedback that you might not like or might be tough to hear, but not that it's all negative, but there is going to be positive. But yeah, I think. Wait, what was your question again?
About just being vulnerable in regards to being a creative, right? You have to just give in to being vulnerable.
Yeah, um, yeah. Like a funny story, when my band released our first album, like uh, we were super excited about it, and we had been planning it for a long time. And we worked with a big YouTube channel to promote our first music video. So we worked out a deal where our music video was going on their platform. So they wrote a review, they wrote an article, and they put it on their channel. So it was getting pushed out there into the music scene for our target audience. And we got a lot of positive comments, and we got quite a few views. And one of the things that I found fascinating, it was all of the negative comments, because there was a lot of comments that were like, this band is trash, this music is garbage, these guys suck, this video is, cliche, like all these things. And I just remember like laughing really hard. I just thought it was hilarious, because what fascinated me about it was like, wow, like these people took time to write these negative things. Like they really don't like this, and they wanted us to know that. So it was and then I texted my guitar player Steve, and I was like, dude, check out the YouTube comments on this video, like. And he was like, oh damn, that's funny. And I guess part of that was, because some people would have a hard time with that, because the negativity could stand out a lot more than like the positive, because you could have 100 positive reviews or comments or feedback, but then one negative comment or something will just throw someone off, and it's tough for them to I guess accept or whatever. But we sort of prepared ourselves in the sense of like, not everyone is going to like this music. I mean, you can't please everybody. There's
Right.
going to be people that understand what you're doing, and they get it, and they want to support you, and they'll buy merchandise, they'll buy your product. And there's going to be people that are neutral about it, and then there's going to be people that just don't like it, like they hate it, and they think it's
Right.
awful. And that's okay. That's the world that we live in. That's what art is. It's up to interpretation. It's okay if you don't like it. It's okay if you interpret it differently. And there's a lot of vulnerability in that, because you're putting your I guess you're putting your ego on the line. You're putting your confidence on the line, and you can't control. All of that stuff is out of your control. Like, you can't control how people are going to accept what you've done. The only thing you have control of is how you respond to that. And that's kind of how I've tried to navigate all of that stuff, is not dwell so much on negative or positive or whatever. Yeah, it's great to hear positive feedback, but I always try to, like, be objective, and if at the end of the day I'm happy with what I'm doing, and it's fun for me, and I feel like I'm impacting, then that's what matters.
Yeah. So we know that you've been a musician for 15 years, right? You have this band that you were talking about, the Human Extinction.
Yeah.
Where does that name come from? Where did you guys come up with the name? And what is the drive behind the heavy metal?
So the name originally came up, our old band name used to, like years ago, like in like 2011, 2012, our old band name was Seize the Day. And we wanted to change the band name to something a little bit more like, I don't know, like maybe aggressive or something. And we wanted to shift our direction of where the band was going and the type of music that we were making. And when one of our old vocalists that I started the band with, we were talking about this, one of our favorite bands, Chelsea Grin, and they have a song called The Human Condition. And one day we're talking about it, and we're talking about that song, and he made a mistake, and he accidentally called it The Human Extinction instead of The Human Condition. And we both looked at each other like, oh, that's a cool name. Like, oh, what if that's the band name? Like, that sounds pretty cool. And we're like, yeah, that's like, you know, because like in the metal scene, you know, every band has like an interesting name or something that's very enticing or you know, brutal or like heavy or dark. And we kind of wanted to like raise the bar of like, what's the most like, you know, epic, cool name that we could come up with. And The Human Extinction just seemed to be like a very paramount name. And I guess maybe you can interpret it as like, you know, if humanity goes in the wrong direction, that we could, you know, face the human extinction. You know, I mean, there's been multiple extinctions in history, you know, multiple mass extinctions. And, you know, that could happen in a number of ways. So that was kind of like an interpretation behind that. And then in terms of the band, it's really evolved over time. We used to be like thrash slash metalcore, and we've moved more into metalcore, deathcore, progressive metal, kind of like Slipknot, or Slipknot's a pretty good example because they have a lot of heavy stuff, but they also have a lot of softer stuff, and they're very progressive, and that's kind of what we strive for, because we didn't want to be like we like writing heavy music, but we don't want to be like in a box of like we're deathcore or like we're metalcore. We want to like experiment and try different things, like not like jazz or something, but in the realm of heavy music is what we want to explore. So we have really heavy songs, and we have songs that have softer parts and, you know, clean singing and stuff like that. So it's not all like brutal screams and stuff. Like there is like singing and there's softer stuff, and we've introduced like orchestral elements and you know, synth and stuff like that, and a lot of strings. And yeah, with my band, I've always really wanted to create that wall of sound, you know, when it comes to music, and just expanding the dimensions of a band, you know, because with a band you got your guitar, bass, drums, you know, vocals, and you just build on that, and that's what we wanted to do. So we built on that by adding all these other elements to add more dimension and more dynamic to the music, and that's pretty much what we've always strived for.
That's awesome. So 15 years of being a musician, and then on top of that, you also have 10 years of being a filmmaker, and you own your own production studio called Divergence Studios.
Yeah.
How do you juggle both? Where did the title for that come? I mean, obviously you're having, out of all these struggles, you're suddenly getting into your successful career. Tell me more, please.
Yeah, I mean, juggling both is definitely tough. You know, it's all about discipline. You know, trying to be disciplined to learn or not. Well, practice. You know, practicing guitar, which is what I play in the band. So keeping up my chops with my musicianship, and being, you know, staying involved with the band and doing things with the band, and I guess I've tried to sort of like find ways to like marry the two, you know, like for example, I'm the content creator for the band. Like that's one of my main roles. I do a lot of our graphics, a lot of our videos and stuff, like a lot of our music videos I've directed. So I'm able to kind of like, you know, blend both worlds of filmmaking and music with my band. So that's kind of been like the best way for me to juggle both, is like they're not like totally separate. They're kind of like together in a sense, and just like disciplining myself to you know, keep up with the band and then sustain my business. But it is really tough, you know, because for the band, you know, in terms of like, you know, when the band makes money, we just reinvest it into the band to do something, like do a venture, do a video, finance something, finance an album, and or finance like merchandise. And with my business, you know, it's how I make a living. So like, you know, sometimes at the end of the day, I have to put my time where, so I could pay the bills, you know, because I can't, you know, make a living off my band yet. So it's definitely, you know, it definitely can be challenging to juggle both, but I just do my best. But, you know, it's not perfect. You know, it may not always be perfect. There might not always be a work-life balance with those two things, but, you know, at least I do my best.
So I think we're missing just a little bit of, where did this risk come to go ahead and just put yourself out to do this production studio company, right? Like it sounds like you've been a risk taker from the get-go, right? But what gave you that leap of faith now to also do your own production company?
Well, the way it basically played out was, for years, up until January 2020, I had different day jobs, and my freelance business was a side hustle. So I would work the typical 9 to 5 schedule, and then on the evenings and on the weekends, I would, you know, I would work on my my side hustle, you know, as much as possible, and I would constantly push myself to work more and do more and just build a business and network and get better at the craft. And one day, one of my mentors, just because I asked one of my filmmaking mentors, like how do I make that shift? Like, how do I up level? Because I have a day job and I'm doing filmmaking as a side hustle, but I want to do it like, you know, full time, like fully immerse myself in it and be able to sustain it. Like, how do I do that? Like, what could I do to really get myself there? And he just told me like the simplest answer, like straight up. He's just like, you just gotta, you know, take a risk. You just gotta do it. You know, like you just gotta take that leap. Like no matter how you play it, there's gonna be risks inevitably. So you just have to go for it. You just have to say, F it. Let's see what happens. And that was his answer, and I was like, oh, like great, like that's scary, you know. But it still took me a long time after that to really understand what he was saying, because the way that it played out was, I was working at this office, and I had my side hustle, I had clients, and I was doing interviews for a video editing position at another company, and the interview was going well. It seemed like they were going to hire me, and I knew somebody that was already in the door with them, like he was working there, so he put in a good word for me. He told me, look, you got it, it's just a formality, you got to do the interview. So so I did that. So I was about to quit this office job, And then they ended up letting me go. And I think it was because they were kind of getting tired of me like taking off a lot of time, because I was taking time off for like for video shoots, or I would take time off like for personal reasons. And I think they kind of got tired of that, so they just decided to let me go. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I was going to quit anyways because I'm getting this editing position. And then I like never heard from the editing position, like the hiring person, like I never heard from them. I would follow up, I would leave a message, nothing. They just like ghosted me. Like I didn't hear anything. And a couple weeks go by and I'm just like unemployed. But I had a couple projects with my video stuff, and I had a couple clients, and I'm just talking to my mom, and I'm just like, well, I haven't heard anything, so I guess that's not going to happen. So she's just like, well, at least you got a couple clients, see what happens. And then I started doing, working on the client stuff, and then I was just kind of like, let's just see what happens. Let me, instead of going to look for a job, let me put my energy into what I've built over these years, which is a freelance business. I have some clients, I have a portfolio, and I've done a lot of the legwork. I'm not starting from scratch. And I wasn't in like a dire financial position, so I wasn't like, starving or something. Like I was doing okay. And then shortly after that, I started getting some unemployment, and that helped a little bit. And then the pandemic happened, and then everything just like totally shifted, and the world seemed to like change overnight. And then I was like, okay, well, now I really can't look for a job because nobody's hiring. And plus, being out there with this virus, it's, I didn't want to get sick and catch this thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to, be home, work from home. I have projects going. And then it ended up fueling my business because I had clients that were really in the position where, okay, this pandemic has shut down everything. We have to go digital. Like we have to push our digital, presence. So that got me a lot of work, a lot of editing work through the pandemic. And that pretty much sustained me through like 2020 going into 2021. And it allowed me to just like really focus on like upgrading some of my equipment and figure out what my next move was, and really growing my business and making it, a real company. And yeah, that's pretty much how it all kind of played out. And that whole transition was very, going back to how I had like my plans, because I initially was like, okay, I have a day job. I want to like, make this an easy transition. I want to minimize my risk. So I'm going to save up 6 months of expenses. I'm going to have an emergency fund, that way, I could do that smooth transition and I could quit. And then I got clients and I got a savings and I'm good. And I'm not taking on like a huge, crazy risk.
Yeah.
And then none of it played out that way. It played out totally just like, getting let go, and then embracing my side hustle, and then immersing myself in that. And then, so I guess like the universe sort of like pulled the rug under me in certain things, like with the job and then the editing job. And then I was just kind of left just with my side hustle. Like, so I was just,
Yeah. You were mentioning about how it kind of went from being, it was like a success and then it dipped down and then it brought you back up. But throughout this whole journey of your successful story, it really sounds like your mom has been your cheerleader this whole time, right?
yeah.
And I can see why at the beginning of our interview, our conversation here, you mentioned that she's so brave, right? And I feel like we finally get to the deep part of why she's so brave, because she knows that there would be struggles for her own child, right? For you, and how can she be brave and be strong to continue to push you, although she may be having her own challenges as well. But mothers always seem to be able to disguise that very well.
Yeah, that makes sense, that you say that.
And it gave me it gave me literally chills when you said again that you were afraid, right? You were afraid, but you were being resilient, right? You find that resilience to move on forward. And it really sounds like there was serendipity here, right? You wanted that job, it never heard back, you were let go, but you really embraced what your talents are. And I think at the beginning you were mentioning that it's because you love to do what you love to do, you're doing the right thing. Right?
Yeah.
Anthony, I want to be respectful of your time, so just a few more questions here about what is something that you want the world to know about you?
Yeah, no worries. I have plenty of time. What do I want the world to know about me?
Yeah, we have this platform right now, what would you want the world to know about you? About Anthony Ortiz?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of great projects coming up that I'm super proud of that I recently worked on with some amazing people. One of them is this awesome sci-fi neo-noir music video that that I directed and produced with Vertigo Shock, which is an industrial rock band. And we're super excited about it because it's, for me, it's definitely one of my most ambitious projects and probably, my most proudest work because we really came up with a story for this music video and we wrote like a scene, and it really is almost kind of like a movie or a short film, and it's very inspired by like Blade Runner and Terminator, and a lot of sci-fi, and so I'm super excited about that. That should be coming out like in the next couple months. We'll be promoting that a lot, so that's super exciting. It's going to be called Without a Face is the song from Vertigo Shock that is for. And then another one is I recently directed a music video for Irene Diaz. She's this awesome pop artist that has this amazing new album that just came out. And we did an awesome music video out in the dunes of Guadalupe, which is an hour north of Santa Barbara. And so I'm super excited about that because it's another ambitious project that I'm really proud of and really excited about. And in these videos, I worked with my crew, with my team, because I've been trying to move more into being a production company as opposed to freelance and like solo filmmaker. I've been able to build and network with a lot of amazing people and collaborators that could help me up-level my work and up-level my the portfolio and the production value. So I've been able to focus on directing and executing the vision and writing and producing. And I just bring people together to help with the camera, help with the lighting, help with the sound. So I couldn't have done it all of these recent projects with my awesome team. And then another big thing that's coming up is the Santa Fe Springs Art Festival, and I'm going to be the film curator for the film festival component. The art festival has been going on for maybe 6 years or so, and maybe like 4 years ago they added in the film festival aspect, and I used to work behind the scenes for it. Like I made their video content, and then I started helping with like a projection operator for the film festival. And then 2019, one of my films was selected and I got to screen and stuff. and then and now they've asked me to be the film curator. So I'll be curating the film festival, which basically means that whatever all the film submissions that come in, I'm reviewing them and I'm selecting them, and I'm basically making the program and the roster for all the films that are going to be selected. And we actually just announced the first selected film, which is a film called Awaken, directed by Tom Steele. And so that's super exciting. And it's the film submissions are still open. It's still live. The deadline for that is March 30th. It used to be March 18th, but it just got extended to March 30th. So if there's any filmmakers out there that have a short film, have something that they wanna put out there and share with everybody, share with the community, and get an opportunity to go to a festival and network as a filmmaker, this is an awesome opportunity to do that. And this is a component of the art festival. So the SFS Art Fest is this huge art festival at the Clark Estate that is a place for all kinds of artists and entertainers, like photographers, painters, musicians, to be a part of. And the applications for that are also live. The deadline is April, I think I have my notes. April 21st is the deadline for artist applications. And you could submit 2 to 3 pieces, different types of mediums. And the festival is Friday, May 6th. So that's the day of the festival and the film festival. So yeah, that's super exciting because that's going to be an awesome event.
That's amazing, and congratulations on the new upcoming projects. I was looking here through the chat, and I do see that there are definitely a comment here. Somebody is saying Anthony is amazing, hands down the best. So they really recognize your work here. And for our audience who is currently watching us, if there's any questions, feel free to leave them on the chat or on the box, and we'll get to them. Another person here saying Anthony is just a talented guy. Applause around video production to being a dope musician.
Nice.
He meant all around. They meant all around. So amazing. You have a lot of support here. You were talking about, you mentioned the inspiration that comes. So I'm curious to know who has inspired your work?
Well, my favorite filmmaker is Christopher Nolan. He's definitely the reason why I want to be a filmmaker, because a couple of my favorite films are his, and he's been a huge inspiration for me in terms of storytelling and cinema, because I do all these video ventures, like music videos and commercials, and I make a living, and it's all useful experience. But my end game and what I really want to do with my path is I want to be a writer-director on films, feature films, short films. That's where I'm headed. And I've done a couple short films, but that's pretty much where I want to take this. And yeah, Chris Nolan is a huge inspiration for that in terms of my storytelling style and my editing style, and how I like to execute a lot of things has been very inspired by him. And then also this filmmaker, Parker Walbeck, he created an online course called Full-Time Filmmaker. And this course was a huge game changer for me, because I didn't go to film school, and I'm a self-taught filmmaker, and for a long time I was on the fence about going to film school. I didn't know if it was going to be right for me. You hear different things about if it's worth it or not, and I really wasn't sure. But then once I found this course, I was kind of okay, I think this might be right for me. Plus, it was more affordable than film school. I think, I didn't want to be, like all the debt and everything was kind of like
Yeah.
why I would question it. And then with the course, I was able to have a curriculum and have a structure for up-leveling my craft, because I had already learned a lot of things, but it was all kind of like no structure. It was kind of all over the place. And when you're starting out trying to learn something, half the time you don't even know what to look for. You don't know what things are called. You don't know what the language is. So finding that course was really like, okay, I have a curriculum. I'm not wandering, blindly in a bunch of YouTube videos. I have a curriculum. So that really up-leveled my craft, my portfolio, and up-leveled my business. And it really helped build that confidence to taking that leap to doing this full time and building my business into a production company and building a team, so that way I could focus on directing. And then another guy is Landon, by the way. He's another filmmaker. He used to be part of the full-time filmmaker team, but now he's doing his own thing. And he was a huge influence because I really like his style. I really like how he approaches filmmaking and how he's very resourceful and makes his work very cinematic. And yeah, so besides all those people, Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, a lot of great filmmakers that have been a huge influence on me, for sure.
That's great. I mean, you're very creative. We see that you're self-taught, and not only that, but you've won some awards, right? You've won awards from the Santa Fe Springs Film Festival in 2019. They even quoted, "Our audience thoroughly enjoyed your film, and the event was vibrant, immersive success."
Yeah, that was an awesome experience. It was an awesome experience because that was my first taste of like the film festival, circuit and getting out there as a filmmaker, because as a filmmaker, you also have to market yourself and you have to put yourself out there, even as an artist too, whether you're a musician or any type of artist. You promote your work, you market your work, you market yourself, and it's good to do that, and it's good to get comfortable with that, and put yourself out there, and also to build relationships, because that is massive in the film industry, in the music industry, in the art industry. Relationships, having a network of people, a network of collaborators to work with and up level yourself, that is really a big deal. So doing that festival definitely opened up a lot of doors. It introduced me to filmmakers that ended up being on my team. So you never know where an opportunity is going to go or how it's going to pay off.
Absolutely. Anthony, in your opinion, what is the key to success?
Well, I guess success could be defined differently depending on who you ask.
But for you, what is the key?
Yeah. So what's success? So what was your question again?
I know it's a heavy one, and it's one to think about. I just want to know, for Anthony Ortiz, what is your opinion of what the key to success is?
Oh yeah, the key to success. Okay. Let's see. I would say perseverance, being persistent with something. I think that's a big one, because a lot of the times, things don't happen overnight. you know, doing art, um, doing music, you know, making films. It's none of that is, you know, a get rich quick scheme or anything like that. If you see success as like making money, um, it all takes time, you know. Like it's taken me, like I've been doing this for 10 years, you know, and I've been
Yeah.
taking it seriously for maybe like 6 or 7 years, and I'm still not, you know, where, you know, I want to be. But, you know, that's okay, because where I'm at right now, I'm very happy because I know that I'm building something. I'm seeing the big picture of what it is that I'm doing. And I could have been like, oh, it's been 10 years and I'm not, you know, doing big things, so I'm going to do something else, you know.
Right.
But it takes time, you know, and having that perseverance of whatever challenges happen, whatever comes up in life or in your career, um, you know, just keep moving, keep moving forward is always what I like strive for. Um, and I feel that I've had a lot of great success in the sense of like making an impact. Because it's always the best thing to hear, like, you know, positive feedback about something that you created. You know, like when I do a client's video and they feel completely happy and satisfied with what I've done, and they're super excited about it, and they're getting feedback from their audience and their followers, um, then I feel like, okay, this was a success, you know, because I made an impact on this person, and the people that are going to watch it, you know, feel that impact as well. Um, and yeah, that's always one of the best feelings ever, is when positive feedback comes back to me. Or sometimes I see it, you know, sometimes I follow the people that I make videos for, and then I see what they're following is saying, you know, like I see the comments, I see the positivity, I see the feedback, what people are saying, and it's great, because I'm like, awesome, you know, like we're making an impact here, you know, it's making a difference, and it's inspiring other people. Yeah.
Talking about inspiring, I have a question here for someone who is watching this recording later on, who's a young age, who just maybe got that, I don't know, handheld camera, or they're something that they want to do. So what is the advice you would give an aspiring filmmaker?
To just get started with whatever you know how to do, whatever you have. Like if you don't have a camera, just use your phone and start making little videos. You know, learn about storytelling, learn about editing, learn about filming, and whatever you create, just put it out there. Like even if you think that it sucks or it could be better, you know, just put it out there, because I've had people come up to me and say, like, oh man, you make like so much content, or you do all these things, like, you know, that's so cool, you know, I like what you're doing, like I have this video that I've been sitting on for a year, you know, I still want to do this with it, I haven't put it out yet. And I'm just like, well, like just put it out. Like it may never be 100% what you're trying to do. Like if it's not where it's at, if it's not where it's at is not where you want it to be, do your best to like get it there, but just put it out. That way you could show people what you can do, because you're going to put it out, and then later on you're going to put something else out, and then you'll look back and you'll feel like, oh, you know, it wasn't as good as what I could do now. But that's a sign of growth. That's a sign of progress. So yeah, my advice would be to just get started. Don't wait for anything. Don't wait to get gear. Don't wait to get any opportunity. You know, don't wait until you like learn everything. Just like whatever you could do like right now, like just go do it and share it, you know, and get feedback, you know, see what people think.
What wonderful advice coming from such a successful career you built this far. You've shared so many stories. We could stay here for hours and hours and just talk more about
Yeah.
how your success has grown. But I do want to ask you one last thing. What is next for Anthony Ortiz?
Um, yeah. So the next big things for me are promoting some of those recent projects that I was talking about, and then the film festival. Um, and then what's next for me also is I've been working on a lot of scripts for some short films that I want to develop. Um, these are ideas and projects that I'm pretty excited about, um, and I'm gonna really push to produce them and develop them, with with whatever resources I have, and all of the network of people and filmmakers and artists that I've had the privilege of meeting over the years. I want to bring them along to help me, make these films, and that's that's what's next for me.
Right. Where can our audience find you? Where can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is dvrg.tones, tones. My website is divergencestudios.com.
Nice. And I'll make sure to tag you on this live so that way it's easier for our audience to find you. Anthony, I want to thank you so much. You've shared such an inspiring, successful story. I'm sure there's so many who will watch this and will be able to get inspired by your story and the struggles and the challenges and how you just have the perseverance to continue and move on. We talked about being brave from your mom, about being afraid to take that leap of faith. And it really sounds like it's really about, if you really love what you're doing, just keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
Take the risk. And you were talking about your key to success, persistence, being persistent, and just get started.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I've enjoyed your successful story. And for everyone who watched this live or will be watching the recording, thank you so much. Leave any questions or comments for Anthony. And like always, everybody has a successful story. We'll see you all.
Yeah, thank you, Ozzy. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure. Hopefully I'll see you at the festival if you're a local, right? You're local to LA?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Send me a message. We'll
All
get in
right.
touch.
Thanks a lot, Ozzy.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, Anthony. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Let's see. We'll play some music to end this.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody who joined. We'll see you next time here on Successful Stories with Ozzy Alvarez on our Instagram Live. And if you feel like you have a story to share, DM me and we'll get in touch so that you can also share your successful story. Bye, everyone.